what's going on? We're back here with Ace Attorney's Spirit of Justice. Last time on, I got horrifically Shadow of the Colossus. And what do I mean by Shadow of the Colossus? If you've never heard me say that phrase before, that's when I'm doing the right thing, but whether it be a slip of the finger or a difference in perspective between the game and I, it does not count as having worked. Because that happened to me a lot the very first time I played Shadow of the Colossus. And oh boy, last time I got Shadow of the Colossus for like an hour and a half. The game wanted me to point at the center of the flame to indicate, the center of the lantern. I kind of get that, because when you think of a lantern, you think of the flame. But the thing we were pointing out was the broken part of the lantern. So to point at the one part of the lantern that's doing its job right, i.e. the fire, seems like nonsensical to me, but I'm happy that it means I didn't have the wrong solve. Just a few notes as we carry on here. The bearded mystery man we met earlier could be the escapee, just with like a wig and a fake beard, and or maybe the wanted photograph of him is just from a long time ago. Seems like maybe a little obvious, in the sense that they usually don't like to pick the obvious answer like that, so I'm sort of leaning towards maybe it isn't, but maybe it just is. Maybe it just is. And the other thing is, I recently had the thought this is an interesting continuation of the quote, dark age of the law story, unquote, in that it's like, all right, we've, sort of started to put an end to the dark age of the law back at home. So just the two options to ramp the stakes are basically the dark age of the law comes back, or we go somewhere else that it's in its own kind of dark age of the law. So I hadn't thought about it until just only recently, but Khura'In's whole thing is their law's in a pretty dark age. It has been for some time, evidently. But I'm thrilled to, as I keep saying, right or wrong here, and carry on with vastly fewer mistakes than last episode. And last case. What could this possibly mean? That lantern clearly contradicts the insight. But this contradiction will overturn the entire case I've been building. Are you all right, Mr. Wright? 1 minute you shout out, and in the next you fall silent. Perhaps it is like the bellow of one who is barreling down a hill with no way of stopping. Is that not right, Prosecutor Sahdmadhi? Don't get cold feet now, Phoenix. Even if this overturns the entire case you've built so far, the only way is to keep moving forward, because that's where we'll find the truth. And also, this seems to put Maya in a much better light, now that we know that wasn't her in the spring. Sorry, but I'm not barreling down a hill. In fact, I'm in full control of everything, with the indisputable contradiction I found. Is that so? The lantern behind the accused blatantly contradicts your insight. Does it now? One of the lanterns on the entrance side of the inner sanctum was broken. And if you watch what Abedin saw in his final moments, you will notice that the lantern behind the praying form of Miss Faye is broken. The lantern behind Lady Kee'ra, however, is still intact. In short, we are seeing two different lanterns in the seance vision. How could this be? And even if it were so, how would that contradict my insights? I don't know how to explain this to you. It's pretty simple. Let me start by saying the claim I'm about to raise will overturn the case I've built thus far. Will the defense please explain himself? Based on the broken lantern, we can tell Maya and Abedini's positions. Well, both. Why am I going to lose health for this? The answer is both. If we can see the broken lantern, it means we know that. Okay, well, I guess really what that because we already knew the position of the lanterns. What we're proving here is Maya and Abedini's positions. Fair enough. Maya and Abedini's positions, where the accused and the victim were standing. But did you not just finish your studying that the accused was standing somewhere else? I did, and I built my argument on that faulty premise. But thankfully, it has led us here, to the actual spot where Maya Faye was standing. Where she was supposed to at the time of the transformation, right? Towards the entrance. I must say, if the defense keeps changing its assertions in such a capricious manner, its credibility may come into question. I'm willing to take that risk, Your Majesty, because I believe this will be the last time. I'd like to now I'm not convinced. I'd like to start by pointing out the actual spot where the accused was standing. Very well. Show us where you now believe the accused was actually standing, in between the broken and not broken lantern. Based on the location of the broken lantern, where was Maya really standing? Alright, over. Take that! I wasn't thinking straight before, but now it's all falling into place. We know the victim had stepped into the spring. That means Maya Faye had to have been standing in the water as he approached. What? However, his memory, which has only now become clear, reveals that Miss Faye was standing by the side of the broken lantern. In other words, She was standing where she was supposed to be according to custom. Hold it! Does that not bring us back to the very beginning? No. This is where things take a different turn, and I mean that literally. The victim had to have been moving toward the spring. That means that while he was moving, he had his back turned toward the accused. Oh, what's this? Do you mean to say that the victim turned around during the rite? But such an image appears nowhere in the seance vision. He has the thing too close to his face to see it. Actually, it does appear. It's just that no one noticed until now. No one noticed? How could no one have noticed something so big? There was a moment when the scripture the victim was holding was all we could see. Thanks to that, none of us could tell that he was in fact turning around in that moment. Yes! Objection. If it is as the defense asserts, then her benevolence's insights no longer make sense. How do you intend to explain that? Objection! I don't need to explain anything, because it's just as you said, Prosecutor Sahdmadhi. Her benevolence's insights don't make any sense because they contain a huge error. Such insolence! Yeah, we could have worked on the phrasing of that one a little, but yeah, you're right. It's not on me to explain it anymore. I think a huge error, you say? To explain. The huge error is the number of people there. I believe this is what happened at the scene of the crime. The victim was reading a sutra when suddenly he sensed someone behind him. He immediately looked back to see someone dressed as Lady Kee'ra standing there. Wishing to see who it was, he approached the robed figure. That's when he was stabbed. This cannot be. What do you hate about Maya so much? Oh, but it can, and it is. The insight stating the accused stabbed the victim is wrong. And that is the real truth lying behind this testimony of the dead. I've got the hiccups. Excuse me, Your Majesty. I do wonder how they're going to counter this one against Maya. Bokaka! Are you suggesting that there was someone else at the scene of the crime? Yeah, that's the idea, yeah. Mm-hmm. Thank you for getting it. Have I misunderstood the voice of the Minama yet again? This cannot be! Poor Rifa. That was a close one. As much as I do feel bad for her, I guess she kind of probably needed a bit of a knock to her ego to get all that gleeful child murder out of there. But I managed to divine the true meaning behind the seance vision. Somehow. I should add these new facts to the court record. Okie dokie. Shows where Maya and the High Priest were doing the rite. But that won't be it. Your benevolence, please allow me to take it from here. She's unconscious and therefore cannot allow anything of the sort. I will overturn the brash accusations of this faithless, putrid-minded lawyer. Yes, I shall place my trust in you. At least they didn't have to haul her off this time. It's a marked improvement, according to me. So now we're going to get into actual testimony, I suppose. We're back with Sahdmadhi. Are you sure about this, Prosecutor Sahdmadhi? My work as an international prosecutor has taken me to courtrooms around the world. Man, it sure is good there's no Prosecution Culpability Act. Otherwise, he would be long dead, my friend. My work as an international prosecutor has taken me to courtrooms around the world. And in that time, I have learned to perform last rites for souls in trials lacking a seance. Yes, of course. Forgive my ludicrous inquiry. Moreover, I have with me a forensic investigator from overseas. Oh, poor Emma. I will show you all the most magnificent last rites ever seen. I guess he really does think highly of Emma and her forensic expertise. I'm impressed that he's come to understand their value. Then again, he is an international prosecutor who solved tough cases around the world. Time to hunker down, huh? Oh then, let us continue with today's proceedings. Could the defense please tell us who the third party dressed as Lady Kee'ra was? Your new claim has negated the insights of the royal priestess, so I trust you have some evidence to support it, correct? Yes, of course. This third party must have really wanted to kill the High Priest. I imagine we're going to say the escapee here? I might be able to identify who it was if I had evidence of their murderous intent. Do they want to just say, because this one says he's armed and dangerous? Well, we're waiting, Mr. Wright. The evidence that can reveal the identity of the third party is this, I'm pretty sure, but let me just go through everything else and think. It may also be Lady Kee'ra's warning. Yeah, it might be another thing where I'm jumping the gun here by us, because we are already saying it's the Lady Kee'ra rebel hunter, kind of. So to me, to say this is redundant, And what we're actually asking here is, because the identity is not the Lady Kee'ra Rebel Hunter. That's not an identity. That's not a true identity. That's an alias. So I assume what they're asking is who is actually wearing the Lady Kee'ra robe, because we've already established that the person was wearing a Lady Kee'ra robe. So to say it's Lady Kee'ra is patently stupid. Like, that's as useful as saying the person with the knife, of course. It's like, yeah, we already know they had a knife. We already know it was Lady Kee'ra, so I think this is probably wrong and this is probably right. But I could also see them, well, take that! This piece of evidence tells us who the third party is. Oh yes, I suppose this evidence does clearly demonstrate one thing. The fact that you are lowlier than the lowliest of worms, that is. Even a royal like you cannot worm your way out of this one defense. Talk about opening up a can of worms. Right, they want me to say it's Lady Kee'ra, even though we already know that. Your Majesty, this is not Phoenix's voice. Your Majesty, I'd like to present another piece of evidence. Well, it seems the worm is not without a spine. Very well, what other evidence do you have for us today? Okie doke, Lady Kee'ra. 3 days before the purification rite, the victim received a warning letter from an unidentified individual. He did? That's silly to me, because we already know it's Lady Kee'ra. There was we saw his last moments. Or, someone wearing the robes of Lady Kee'ra. So to say it was someone wearing the robes of Lady Kee'ra is so redundant, it's funny. But, fair enough, I see where they're coming from, I guess. You did? Okay, you know what? To be fair, I forgot that the court was not yet privy to this warning, because it's not like an actual court where you submit all the evidence beforehand. 6 games in and I still don't get it. My apologies. Whoever sent it clearly meant to threaten the High Priest. The letter said, do not perform the rite, but the rite went on as scheduled. I believe that is why the High Priest was murdered. Who do you suppose sent that letter? The guy from the wanted poster. A person with something to hide. The rebel hunter disguised as Lady Kee'ra herself. Peace! I don't understand. I had heard the Lady Kee'ra that has been in the news of late only hunted rebels. If so, why would she have killed the High Priest? Excellent question. Maybe it would help to think of it this way. What if the High Priest had secretly been a rebel? The High Priest? He couldn't possibly have been a rebel. For the second time! Bang, bang, bang! Oh, this theme is so dramatic and cool. The High Priest, a devout follower of Khura'Inism, a rebel! Do you even comprehend the blasphemy of which you speak? Well, do you? I too found it hard to believe at first, but also I'm gonna be executed either way, so down the rabbit hole. But as I continued my investigation, it started to become more and more plausible. Oh, objection? The judge wouldn't raise an objection, I don't know why I used his voice. The third party was the rebel hunting Lady Kee'ra, and the High Priest was a rebel. Your mockery of Khura'Inism, no, of the kingdom of Khura'In itself knows no bounds. Whoops! That shameless punning lawyer! He's making a mockery of our religion! As a faithful Khura'Inist, I take issue with these claims, and I am loath to admit them into today's proceedings. I don't like where this is going. The defense's claims are but vile blasphemy, tantamount to spitting on the Holy Mother. Is it really that big of a deal, Maya? Evidently was a distinguished monk, and very well respected too, so, yeah. Ugh. Please don't let this turn into an international incident. But fear not, good people of Khura'In. The rantings of this putrid-brained lawyer who seeks to sully the soul of the deceased shall come to no avail once I conclude these last rites. The prosecution's assertion that the accused killed the victim remains unchanged. But the victim was stabbed in his abdomen. How is that possible when he had his back turned toward Miss Faye? Someone else must have killed him. Objection? Are you sure about that? You may have invalidated this seance, but do not let it go to your putrid head. The karmic flow of this trial is as yet still in my hands. How can you be so confident? Something has occurred to me, you see, and your allegations of a third party are but a deluded fantasy, and I shall prove that by calling a new witness to the stand. Please? An eyewitness who will deliver a definitive answer that will dispel the defense's doubts. So you're telling me A third person was at the scene who was watching and made sure that there were not 3 people? Are you about to bring the killer to the witness stand? An eyewitness? Very well. Let's just call this eyewitness to the stand. Watch him pull out a bird. This Warba'ad was... Yeah, figures it is this guy, eh? It's him again. Well, now, he has to be the shaggiest witness I have ever laid eyes upon. Good to know it's not just me who's completely disrespected in this courtroom, or hall of justice. Please state your name and occupation. Oh, you know, that so-and-so, whatchamacallit. Anonymous TBD! Anonymous to be determined. At least that's what they've been calling me. TBD, as in to be determined. Can't you just tell us your real name? The witness has suffered a blow to the head, rendering him amnesiac. Therefore, I named him Anonymous TBD in my report, but he thinks TBD is part of his name. Is he fit to testify if he's suffered severe head trauma of late? Objection! You're letting an amnesiac testify? Have no fear. I have already questioned him at length. Why would that comfort me exactly? While it is true he has utterly forgotten his name and past, his memory of what he witnessed is still very much intact. I think Athena would have some things to say about that. You can't seriously believe that someone with severe head trauma has no chance of being, maybe more suggestible to whatever it is the way you were questioning them? Considering the dearth of information, any new knowledge may be of help. Therefore, I will permit his testimony. Now, Mr. Immus, please tell us what you saw. That's pretty twisted, but fair enough. We don't really have any other information, so I guess I kind of see where you're coming from. Witness testimony. The night of the murder. That night I was up top of Mount Pony, the mountain next to the inner sanctum. I hate crowds, so I climbed up there to pray in peace. I know it's a no-no, but since there was no one around, I used my binoculars to spy on the right of the inner sanctum. That's when I saw the accused stab the high priest with a dagger. With a 12-meter height difference and a curtain in the way? There's no way you saw Miss Face stab the victim with a dagger. I swear I don't know what he's talking about. Or don't remember at any rate. Shh, Maya, as your lawyer, I would advise you not to say that. Mount Pony. The beautiful mountain that is also known as the Little Sanctum. He must be talking about that smaller mountain from the poster. Mr. Immus, I was wondering, what can I do you for? The Inner Sanctum lies at a high elevation where the clouds and fog can obscure the view. Are you sure you were able to see what happened from the mountaintop next to it? Good point. His Majesty raises an excellent question. Well, Mr. Immus? On day of the right, there was a cloud in the sky. I had perfect view. If you don't believe me, check the weather forecast in the paper that day. So we do have a weather forecast, so we could tell which way the wind was blowing the whole time, and we waited till now? What the crap? Nick, don't we have the newspaper for that day? Oh, yeah, let's take a look. The area around the inner sanctum will enjoy calm, clear skies today. The warmer temperature will make for excellent prayer weather. Be warned, however, that we'll see a cold front move in overnight. It does say calm, clear skies, doesn't it? I don't know if this cold front would come with clouds, but... See? Told you so! Okay, so let's all calm down a little bit here. Well, it would appear the witness has offered testimony worth hearing. By the way, has your man's been added to... Where do I see profiles? Oh, there we go. I don't know why I forgot that. His name hasn't been changed in this thing here, which is kind of interesting. I still can't tell if he's supposed to have, like, spiritual, hollowed-out black holes for eyes or just very, very thick lashes. Well, it would appear that the witness has offered testimony worth hearing. Mr. Immus, I too have a question for you. Didn't he already question the witness? Well, that's what I'm here for, right? Shoot! How was the accused holding the dagger? Was she holding it underhanded, its blade protruding from the bottom of her hand? Yep, I believe she was. It's called a reverse grip. Ah, I thought as much. Hold it! Hold it right there. What bearing does that have on this case? Cease your interruptions, you putrid-headed lawyer. Do you not see the significance in how the blade was held? Why don't you enlighten me, O enlightened one? I knew you were a fool. I can already picture you in your next life. Next life? Yes, after your soul writhes for centuries in the pits of hell. You shall be reborn as a witless sea urchin, with barbs limited to your posterior. You shall live a short, inconsequential life only to be brutally devoured by a sea otter. Is that why I was asked to say that in that Amori meme dub? That's hilarious if so. Or is that a meme beyond this game that I've never heard of? That was a bit excessive. I simply asked what the dagger grip had to do with the case. Now pay attention. How the accused held the dagger is of vital importance. At least the urchin thing actually relates to the barbed head jab you keep throwing at him. What about the stink bug? Got anything to do with Apollo? With such information, we can infer wouldn't a cicada make more sense because he's loud? With such information, we can infer exactly what actions she took. You were saying that the victim was killed while he had his back to the accused. So you're saying she reached around and did that? Okay. Okay, fair. Is that correct? Yes. As such, the accused's dagger grip tells us something very important. The accused approached the victim from behind, swung her arms around him, and plunged the dagger into his abdomen using a reverse grip. What?! Thus, Mr. Amos' testimony clears up any doubts that might remain. And it coincides with her benevolence's insights as well! This is a disaster! I thought I'd blown the insides out of the water, but now they're back to haunt me. Now then, the defense may cross-examine the witness, except we didn't hear any footsteps from the seance vision, so now you're discrediting the seance vision. What the H? Well, I guess maybe she tiptoed. Whatever. Does beg the question who was standing there in the Kee'ra robe, even still. Even if you do believe it, Maya stabbed her. Him. You know, nouns, pronouns, words, English. The night of the murder! So I think the thing we want to get at is, you know, maybe with a 12-meter height difference, you would catch some glimpse of what's going on with binoculars. Maybe? I don't know, 12 meters is pretty high. But at the very least, you would not be able to see through the curtain. I think the curtain one being slightly more substantial. I would say 12 meters seems like a pretty hard sell. I mean, think about 12 meters right above you. The distance you'd have to go away to get an angle that you could view the top of that pretty clearly enough to see someone be stabbed. Well, I guess binoculars. But anyway, the thing is, they don't tell us precisely how far away Mount Pony Pony is, only that it's over there a bit, you know? So I couldn't actually do the math of it, which is done intentionally so that you don't have to do the math of it, which tells me that I should be using this instead. I've had a bad instinct so far in this game as to which ones you're supposed to push on Olive, and there's no actual solution. But this one, I'm almost dead certain that the curtain will work on one of these. I think this one probably here. I use my binoculars to spy on the right at the inner sanctum. Objection! Your Majesty, I had my doubts about this bushy-bearded witness, but now I know we can't trust him. What? You're just judging me solely on my bodacious beard, are you? Not at all, Mr. Amos. It's much more than your sketchy appearance. It's your sketchy testimony. His testimony, you say? Yes. Recall how the inner sanctum was that day. Specifically, that it was completely enclosed by ritual curtain. The ritual curtain, some normal humans would say. Why, yes, I believe you're right. The curtain would have completely blocked the witness's view from Mount Pony Pony. Therefore, he couldn't possibly have seen the murder happen. Mr. Amos, have you been knowingly making false statements to this court? No, he suffered severe head trauma. Hey, you got me! The witness will lower his voice. I didn't actually see the accused herself. He didn't actually see the accused herself. What's that supposed to mean? Let me set the record straight, I beg you. All right, you minor 49er. Witness testimony. The night of the murder, amended. I saw their shadowy silhouettes projected against the ritual curtain. The figures were created by the light of the full moon on that clear and still night. Shouldn't that have been coming from your side? She was just a shadow, but I could tell it was the accused reverse gripping that dagger. What? Shadows? That's what you saw? That's right. I could see what was going on by the shadows projected onto the ritual curtain. I think that's the problem with that, is that he was on Mount Pony Pony. According to the ritual guide, is on the west side, which is where the full moon would also be. In the future, Mr. Amos, I would rather you offer up accurate testimony from the start. Oh, forgive me, my main man, Mr. Magistrate. Chalk it up to my fuzzy memory. Though he saw but shadows, it is still valuable testimony. You have to be kidding me. What are we gonna do now, Nick? All I can think of is to look for inconsistencies between the actual Wright and what Mr. Amos says he saw. That was their way of telling me to look at the guidebook and find the moon. Now then, the defense may cross-examine the witness once more. Cross-examination. That's a pretty easy one, I think. The night of the murder, amended. So was the last one, though, so I think we're going to get to something hard after this, I would guess. The figures were created by the light of the full moon on that clear and still night. I did not mean to push there, I meant to hit court record. Ooh, whatever. You claim to see in shadowy figures that were projected on the ritual curtain. But did you really see them, Mr. Amos? Of course I did. The bright moonlight projected them onto that curtain. Clear as day. It was like watching a scene out of a horror movie from my front row seat on Mount Pony. I guess the moon does shine a bit brighter when you're way up there. Maya, do you recall how bright the moon was that night? I remember there weren't any clouds and that the moon was definitely out. I don't remember if it could cast any shadows. Okay, thanks. Can't deny that the moon was really bright, which means it's possible that it was bright enough to cause shadows to appear. I remember it just like it happened. Anyway, sorry, that was not what I meant to do. I was very much meaning to hit present there. Objection! You saw silhouettes projected by the moonlight. Sorry, but that's just not possible. What do you mean? How's it not possible? Dang these hiccups. How's it not possible that it was totally possible? That's impossible! I think I'm going to need a logicalese translation on that. Let's take a look at this Wright's guide, shall we, Mr. Amos? The rite is held when the moon is directly over the summit of Mount Pony. So if the moon was shining from the west, any shadows would have been cast eastward. But Mr. Amos was standing to the west of the inner sanctum on Mount Pony. Oh, holy mother! That's right. Our witness here couldn't have seen any shadowy figures on that curtain. No way! Perhaps it was the sacred flames of the lanterns that cast the shadows he saw? I'm afraid not. I inspected them during my investigation, but the flames were too small to cast the crisp, distinct figures Mr. Amos claims to have seen. Thank you for just calling that one and not making me do it somehow. But I did see those silhouettes, really. But how could he, Nick? Maybe he was someplace where they were visible, i.e. eastward? Wait, don't tell me. Your Majesty, if Mr. Amos really did see those shadows, it brings a brand new fact to light. And that would be... The brand new fact that comes to light if Mr. Amos really did see those shadows is he didn't see the murder, he was somewhere else. He was somewhere else makes the most sense to me. Somewhere eastward. I don't know that we have enough information on this diagram or anything that would let us know what was eastward, but it was somewhere else. It doesn't prove anything about the murder exactly. He wasn't where he claimed to be at the time of the murder. Oh, then where do you propose the witness was? The witness? Someplace where he could have seen the shadow figures, naturally. Wait, you mean... None of the mountains east of the inner sanctum are close enough for a good view. That leaves only one place he could have clearly seen the shadows from. Oh, okay, I didn't know that there were no mountains east. So you're saying he was all in that very same... He was like right here on the other side of the curtain then. And where might that be? This is where Mr. Amos was at the time of the murder. Oh, positive devotion to the High Priest's home. I don't know that we have any information about those two being eastward of the inner sanctum, but I'll just check real quick. Oh, actually, him being on the east side of that curtain would make a lot of sense because that's right beside these prayer flags. Maybe that's what he was doing there. I don't think I have to overthink this one. He was there at the inner sanctum, just like maybe on the other side of the curtain. Or in the same... He was right there, just... It was too dark to see them clearly. Mr. Amos was at the inner sanctum, just outside the curtain on the east side. That's the only place from which he could have seen the shadowy figures. Really? Wow, I didn't even think of that. Man, Sahdmadhi. This was not the biggest of brain plays, proving there were only two people there by bringing the third person who was there. But wasn't the inner sanctum off limits to all but the victim and the accused? And the third party who was there, you mean? I get the feeling that's a subject Prosecutor Sahdmadhi would rather not touch right now. Oh, you mean... That's right. This witness was at the scene of the crime. We just said that, right? That was what was just said. Why are we repeating it? Which means he is the mysterious third party we saw during the divination seance. He could be the one who dressed as Lady Kee'ra and killed the High Priest. What? It's certainly possible. Objection. No one but the two participants were allowed anywhere near the inner sanctum, and the only way up there are the stairs that start down at the Plaza of Devotion, and however you get up to the prison, and down from the prison. So tell me, how do you propose the witness enter that sacred space? I found a typo even though I missed it the first time. Anyway, sorry. So tell me, how do you propose the witness enter that sacred space? Oh! You must have, haven't thought that far ahead. He parachuted. The sanctum has sheer cliffs on 3 sides and a steep towering rock face on the other. No one could have made it there by climbing the faces of those cliffs. Perhaps you're right, Your Honor. His Majesty speaks true. To say Mr. Immis was at such an inaccessible location is but a bid to tarnish his credibility. How do you explain he saw the shadows then? Go on. Is that not right? Right! I wasn't at the inner sanctum. No, sir, no how. At least I'm pretty sure I wasn't. Hold it! Then what about those silhouettes you claim to have seen? I'm starting to think I've been imagining things! What? This is insane! Yeah, that's nonsense. I knew we couldn't trust that lawyer. What? Me? He's trying to frame the witness. He's amnesiac! He should never have been allowed to testify if you weren't going to trust what he said. Peace, I say! This is impossible. Unless I can show how we got to the inner sanctum, it just looks like I'm trying to slander Mr. Immis. I believe in you, Nick. Rah, rah, sis boom bah, fight, Phoenix, right! Just look at the accused. Has she no shame? Not usually. What's your problem, lady? Phoenix Wright is very trustworthy, I'll have you know. She's got some nerve for a criminal. I bet that lawyer poisoned her mind. Please, Maya, you're only making it worse. I appreciate the vote of confidence, but it's probably best to keep it to yourself for now. I love you, Maya, forever and ever. I would advise the defense to think carefully before making any more sudden outbursts. Yes, Your Majesty. If I wasn't the bad guy before, I definitely am now. Now, Mr. Immis, I would like you to think back carefully before you testify about where you were that night. Oh, he's going to testify again. Sweet, that makes a lot. I thought they were going to just ask me to prove it after having him said, "Go, I don't remember. Witness testimony. I wasn't at the inner sanctum. I was never at the inner sanctum, I'll tell you. That much I'm sure of, even with the fuzzy memory." Memory's fuzzier than your face, my friend. Besides, it would have been impossible to get there in the first place. Boy, you lawyers sure are scary. I have to push on that. I guess it might have been impossible for him to get to the inner sanctum like he claims, but... Now, will you desist in trying to frame this innocent witness? Yeah, I'd like to see you explain how we got up there. Mr. Wright, is it not time to end these cross-examinations? Just die already, would you? A moment of desperation leads to 100 million years of torment. You were measuring it in the hundreds before. It means that for each moment a sinner spends struggling to deny their sins, 100 million years of torment are added to their time in hell. Khura'Inism is the strictest religion ever. And just so you know, you've already accrued 200 million extra years. Neat. Plus the 5 years they started with, that's 700 million years. Didn't get a chance to read that. That's 700 million years of torment. Sure, what's 200 million, give or take? Well, it's a big deal to me. I can't keep saying that the witness was there at the inner sanctum if I can't prove it. The problem is, how am I going to do that? This kind of has the feel of one you're meant to push on all of. I am thinking ahead, and they've already mentioned that the escapee was a practiced paratrooper. Seems pertinent, but I don't understand how Zeh'lot fits into all this just yet, and it feels like he should. Doesn't much look like the Worse Than the Wanted poster, though. That escapee is much more likely to be our bearded friend over here. Oh yeah, actually, even the nose is like exactly the same. Have a look at it. At least we'll be able to verify who you are by checking the piercing holes in your ears at some point. I wasn't at the inner sanctum. How was... Oh, right, we already read this. I wasn't at the inner sanctum, I tell you. That much I'm sure of, even with the fuzzy memory. Besides, it would have been impossible to get in there in the first place. Boy, you lawyers sure are scary. Hold it! I take issue with that. No, hold on. Lawyers aren't scary. But you're saying I was at the inner sanctum when I wasn't. Anyone who tried to frame an innocent man like that is scary in my book. Yeah, lawyers are scary. Lawyers are scary. It's a setup. It's definitely a setup. I'm not trying to set anyone up. I'm going to provide evidence and explain exactly how it was done. The gallery speaks true. They know the depth of a lawyer's sin and the poverty of his virtue. There may be some bad apples, but we're not all like that, you know? Don't worry, Nick. I'll still root for you, no matter how morally bankrupt you become. Thanks a bunch, Maya. Mr. Immis wasn't at the inner sanctum, or more precisely, couldn't get there. I don't see a way out of this. These kinds of debates only get worse if you argue them the wrong way. I'll have to pry some conclusive testimony out of him and then present some evidence. Like when you're trying to catch frogs from a pond. Once you got a grip on one, you better hold on tight. Right, something like that. So that sounds like I was saying, like we need to push a whole bunch on this. I was never at the inner sanctum, I tell ya. Hold it! Are you sure you weren't there? All I'm sure of is that you're deeply skeptical. Hey, Mr. Prosecutor, are all lawyers always like this? Most certainly. They always tried to pin crimes on innocent witnesses without any proof whatsoever. Like the last time, where he saved an innocent 8-year-old, or the time from his colleague who saved an innocent 17-year-old. They are no better than bacteria or viruses. Yikes! You mean he's contagious? Whew! He's gonna give me lawyeritis! Okay, this is getting ridiculous. Ooh, that was a close one! He almost put me there at the scene of the crime when I wasn't even there! Love this guy, even if he's a killer. That much I'm sure of, even with the fuzzy memory. Hold it! You just said your memory was fuzzy. I sure did. What's the big deal? I'll tell you what, your testimony isn't very credible if your memory of the events is fuzzy. Oh, no worries there. My memory may be fuzzy, but I'm very clear on one thing. Here we go again. If you ask me whether or not I remember what I did that night, I'd say I do. In short, you are confident that your testimony is true. Is that correct, Mr. Immus? Exactly. Guess you don't get to be a judge for nothing. So in closing, I can clearly say that I was totally not there. What is it you say you were doing? Besides, it would have been impossible for me to get there in the first place. Hold it! I wonder if it really was impossible for you to get to the inner sanctum. If you have something to say, just say it. Couldn't there have been another way to get there? A way that wouldn't attract attention? No, there isn't. Oh, okay. Sorry, it only just clicked with me. These were probably, these were his makeshift parachute, I guess. I was thrown off by their phrasing of calling it a banner, but this, well, I don't know that it would be an excellent parachute. That would probably explain how he got the head trauma, is if he had sort of a botched landing because he was parachuting with this. That actually totally tracks with the amount of snow we find on it as well. It's only lightly snowed over, as though it'd been there for like maybe 12 hours when we found it. Most curious. I wonder what the detail about him having been donated by Abbott and me was then. Oh! Well, that more evidence that he's a rebel then, I guess. He was trying to help his friend escape from the prison. I don't know. Anyway, sorry, I'm way too far ahead of things now. No, there isn't! Which means there is. Perhaps the defense would share its theory with us. I don't even have a wild guess, let alone a theory, though. Time to reach into my bag of bluffs. To reach the inner sanctum without attracting any attention, he fell from the sky. Maybe he fell from the sky. The lawyer thinks he's a comedian now. I was wondering what crazy theory you would propose next. Well, defense, let's hear it. Mr. Amos could have parachuted down. We already know the weather was clear and there was no wind to speak of. Perfect weather for skydiving, I'd say. Now that you have been backed into a corner, your delusions grow ever more delusional. It's the first time they've ever shown us the prison. And how much of an obvious... Oh yeah, they definitely came from up there, it is. The inner sanctum is on a tiny ledge upon a sheer cliff over 2,000 meters tall. One misstep and a skydiver would soon find themselves in the Twilight Realm. Yeah! I don't care how still the wind was, even I couldn't have made that jump! Wait! What's this building on top of the Sacred Mountain? That is Royal Penitentiary number 4. Oh, right, Princess Raifa mentioned there was a prison up there. Number 4? Is that the one that they were said to have escaped from? I mean, it only makes sense, but... Oh yeah, that's the one. I somehow thought it was Penitentiary number 2. How do you get your prisoners up there anyway? By helicopter, but only with authorization from the Minister of Justice. I hate that. He is the only one who can approve flights that pass over the inner sanctum. Ah! Oh, lovely. They've finally given us this actual picture of the wide shot as part of this piece of evidence. Neat. Well, that just as well as confirms it. The banners here were the makeshift parachute, and your guy here is this dude, but with a lot more hair. Oh my god, what if Trust in Me was the rebel hunter, and him being a rebel with a sizable reward on his head wanted to get rid of him for that reason? That would be crazy. Might I also add, defense, that no parachute or any other equipment necessary for skydiving have been found. Objection? Are you saying I flew down there by flapping my arms? I may be an incredible dude, but even I'm not capable of that! Well, please add that statement to your testimony, Mr. Immis. Which, I'm incredible dude? It's not like I can fly through the air either. Hold it! I'm not sure if I'm allowed to put the parachute on that one just yet. You wouldn't need to flap your arms if you had some gear. As I have already stated, nothing of the sort was found in or around the scene of the crime. I'd sure like to see some of that so-called gear you're talking about. I know. But was there really nothing like that at the scene of the sanctum? What if there was something that could have been used as a parachute? Let's give the evidence another look. That's the banners then. We can put that there, I suppose. You continue to claim that the witness was at the inner sanctum. Yet said claim shall remain but a claim without any supporting evidence, Mr. Wright. Yes, I realize that, Your Majesty. I can't find any inconsistencies. Guess I can always try to elicit some more testimony. Well, wait, why would I do that when I already pushed on everything and he just told me to look through the evidence, as in to find this? Objection! Okay, good. That was a weird way that he said that. Mr. Immis is right. He couldn't have skydived down there without any gear. Well now, finally come around, have you? You guys really need to let me finish. Now you see that I couldn't have possibly been there at the inner sanctum. Right. If you didn't have any gear, that is. What on earth are you talking about? That a reaction is a dead giveaway that I'm on the right track. Take a look at this piece of evidence. Those are prayer flags, are they not? Yes, but they have been sewn together to create one big banner. A banner that could also function like a parachute. Bulkunka. The people of Khura'In are so used to seeing prayer flags. The police didn't even think twice about these flags during their investigation. No, this cannot be. The witness landed at the inner sanctum by using these prayer flags as a parachute. Is that not right, Mr. Immis? There's no way out. I'm surrounded. Mr. Immis? Oh, this talk's jogged my memory. I guess I was there at the inner sanctum after all. And what a note to end on, my friends, because that's all the time we have for now. But clearly we're going to be getting into the meat and taters, proverbially speaking, of this case next time. We've been having entrees so far, but we're soon going to get a chance to say that Mr. Experienced Paratrooper over here, that's a rebel. As I was kindly told, it's actually not, that's horrible. Even though I love, that's horrible. Very much. That's a rebel. We're going to get a chance to use this paratrooper solve. I presume at some point someone will mention that they heard a theme song and we're going to have to argue whether it was the Steel Samurai or Plume Punisher one. And whoever Maya gave that other trinket to is going to be involved here. I have my doubts that Phoenix was right about him being a rebel. And I guess there's still a non-zero chance that he's the rebel hunter. But I'm starting to warm up to this idea that he's a rebel. It does make a lot of things make sense. But I'm picturing there being a big twist at the end where, because we've been assuming the whole time he's a rebel, the truth is something else. Either he wasn't actually a rebel, or he was the rebel hunter, or both, or something weird like that. But that is all for now. Next week on the channel is going to be some more Fireman 3 Houses Are Verdant Winged Assassins Only Run. Thank you so very much for coming around to this episode of Ace Attorney's Spirit of Justice. Hopefully I'll see you around. Admiral's going to be out of here now. Peace! Hoppy will just banish this idiot forthwith. The opposition especially.